Hello, good morning, all. Welcome to session 7. Here we are going to explore a beautiful short poem by Walt Whitman called When I Heard the Learned Astronomer. So, we will see some of the themes and objectives and outcomes of this poem in this session. In the next session, we will go in detail about the poem. Let's see the contents of this session. We will be pondering over some of the objectives. By the end of this class, you should be able to do all these things which will come in outcomes. Some of the pre-reading activities. Before we read the poem, let's think about few questions. Little bit about the author, purpose of the poem, introduction to the text, themes, recap, and multiple choice questions. Let's see what are the learning objects of this poem. To understand the contrast between scientific knowledge and personal experience. Second one is to appreciate Whitman's unique free verse style. Third one is we have to identify the key themes of this poem. Next one, to develop critical thinking by relating the poem's message to our own lives. So here we connect literature to broader context. We are relating the poem to personal experience. So after this session, you can think over what might be your experience in this. So after listening to this poem, after 2 sessions, what might be the take home points? One is why the speaker feels tired and sick during the astronomer's lecture. So explain why the speaker feels tired. Next one is differentiate between learning through facts and figures versus experiencing nature directly. Third one is to analyze Whitman's imagery and style. Interpret the poem's central themes of knowledge versus wisdom, science versus experience, and silence versus applause. So we have to analyze Whitman's use of free verse and imagery to convey the contrast between the lecture room and the natural world. Which would you love more? Do you like to sit inside the class and listen to the lecture, or do you want to experience the same subject in nature? So you reflect on your own learning styles and relate the poem's message to personal or classroom experiences. To appreciate the value of balancing intellectual study with experiential learning in understanding the world. Some of the pre-reading activities before we read this poem. So let's think about some of the points here which in the class you can discuss with your friends and your teachers. Have you ever attended a class where too many facts and figures made you bored? So you could not sit for more time. So how did it make you feel? Did you feel bored or did you feel happy? Did you feel like going out? So share your experience with your friends and your teacher. The next one is, do you enjoy stargazing? What thoughts or feelings come to your mind when you look at the night sky? So of course, being a science student, especially if you are a student of physics, obviously you would love stargazing at night. Sleeping on the terrace, gazing at the stars, looking at the constellations gives a lot of fun. So is learning about stars in lecture the same as lying under the stars and watching them by yourself? So what experiences do you love? So do you think learning in the nature is good or learning in the books would be better? So just discuss why and why not. Which do you find more exciting? Understanding the science of stars or simply admiring the beauty? Why do you think the poets often write about the stars and the sky? Can knowledge sometimes take away the sense of wonder or mystery in life? What do you think? So these are some of the pre-reading activities. So let us see the purpose of the poem. Why the poet might have written this poem. To show the contrast between scientific knowledge and personal experience, that is silent wonder under the stars. So he is giving the direct experience of quietly gazing at the stars to critique the limits of intellectual analysis, suggesting that science alone cannot capture the spiritual and emotional beauty of nature. So it reminds us that science and facts are valuable, but they cannot fully capture the emotional and spiritual beauty of nature. To encourage readers to seek direct personal connections with the natural world rather than relying only on second-hand knowledge. Means to encourage readers to step outside, look at the world, and find wisdom through the silence and wonder. To highlight the idea that true wisdom comes not just from study but from intuition, imagination, and life experience. So, to remind us that learning should inspire awe and wonder, not boredom or weariness. So, these are the purpose of this poem. Let us see the introduction to the author. So Walt Whitman, he was born in 1819 in New York, West Hills. He left school early and worked in printing and journalism. Later, he became one of America's greatest poets. His most famous collection is Leaves of Grass, first published in 1855. It was revolutionary because he broke away from traditional poetry forms and used free verse. His poetic style was free verse. He is known as the father of free verse. He combines realism with transcendentalist ideas. So Civil War role. So he has also served as a volunteer nurse during the American Civil War, which deeply shaped his poetry. Some of the famous poems are "O Captain, My Captain," "Song of Myself," "When Lilacs Last in the Dooryard Bloomed." Some of the themes he uses are democracy, individuality, nature, the human body, and the spiritual connection with the universe. So Whitman wrote about all this: human body, individuality, democracy, nature, and our spiritual connection with the universe. He is often called as the father of free verse. He spent his final years in Camden, New Jersey, continuing to revise Leaves of Grass. So let us come to the poem now. So this is the introduction to the poem. When I Heard the Learned Astronomer is a short poem by Walt Whitman, first published in 1865 in his famous collection Leaves of Grass. Here, the poem represents a contrast between scientific learning and direct experience of nature. It describes the speaker sitting in a lecture room where an astronomer explains the stars with charts, proofs, diagrams. So here the audience, after listening to the lecture, the audience claps loudly, but the speaker begins to feel tired and sick. So he is not very happy. He wanted to leave the room, but outside under the sky he looks at the stars in silence and wonder, finding more meaning than in the lecture. You can see in the picture here. See, in this picture the boy is very sad that he cannot understand. He can understand, but he is bored to see the stars in charts, proofs and diagrams. But when he goes outside to the nature, so Whitman suggests that whole science is useful. The true beauty of nature is best understood through personal experience and intuition. So finally, he quietly leaves the room, goes outside and looks up at the night sky in the silence. That experience of wonder gives him more meaning than the lecture did. So let us see some of the themes. Knowledge versus experience. Science gives facts, but direct experience gives meaning. So here the poem contrasts bookish, analytical learning with the deeper joy of experiencing nature directly. Limits of scientific analysis. Charts and figures cannot capture the beauty. Here, scientific proofs, charts, and measurements cannot fully capture the beauty and mystery of the universe. Wonder of nature. True appreciation of stars comes from silence, awe, and direct observation. Next theme is silence versus applause. The noisy lecture room with applause contrasts with the peaceful, mystical silence of the night sky. Intuition and personal connection. The speaker values intuitive, emotional, and understanding over intellectual explanations. Freedom of the individual. The poet suggests one must step away from rigid systems to find personal meaning and the truth in nature. So let us recap whatever we did now. The speaker listens to the lecture by a learned astronomer filled with proofs, figures, charts and diagrams. The audience in the lecture room applauds. They are very happy, but the speaker begins to feel tired and sick. So he feels unwell. He leaves the hall quietly. Outside under the mystical night sky, he experiences wonder and awe. So alone he is gazing silently at the stars. Here the poem shows the contrast between scientific study and direct personal experience of nature. Whitman's message in that wisdom is not just in books, it is in the live experience and intuition. He suggests that true wonder and understanding of the universe come from observation, silence, intuition, not just from lectures and analysis. So this is the recap. So after listening to this, you must be able to answer these questions. So just to check your comprehension, I have given you 5 questions. Let's see how you are going to answer them. Who is the poet of When I Heard a Learned Astronomer? Of course it is Walt Whitman. In which poetry collection was this poem first published? It is Leaves of Grass. What does the astronomer use to explain the stars? Proofs, charts and diagrams. How does the audience in the lecture room respond to the astronomer? They give much applause. How does the speaker feel during the astronomer's lecture? They are tired and sick. So finally, thank you for listening. So you can see the picture of a boy who is enjoying the night sky with a binocular. So Whitman's poem reminds us that while knowledge is important, we must never lose our sense of wonder. Facts and figures may inform us, but it is silence, imagination, and direct experience that truly inspires us. So, the next time you feel stressed by facts, step outside, look at the stars, and experience the beauty of the universe for yourself. So, thank you all for listening this lecture. So, we will meet in the next session with the detailed analysis, line by line analysis of this poem.